The other day I was watching a really good video from NKBHD where he talked about how the phone manufacturers, smartphone manufacturers, obviously like iPhone or any Android phone, they have reached this kind of conclusion that one day battery life is good enough for pretty much any smartphone user. That most of the people don't care really that much if the battery life is longer or not than that. That they're just okay to charge their phones once a day. When in the past it used to be that phones could be maybe lasting for a week or weeks even, so they could last really long time without having to be charged. Of course, they were not as feature rich and they didn't have so much features that consume a ton of power. In any case, that got me thinking that how are you checking which features are key for your users and which features are actually something that are going to bring value to your customer, but maybe they are not that value for them. Let's get into it. So for a user, there's going to be different type of features in a product. There's going to be features that are going to be unique to that product. Features that differentiate this product from all the others. These are going to be usually in a way like the unique value proposition of the product, something that they do that the rest don't. This is something that has happened in the past, something that, for example, the iPhone, when it came out, it was something that was completely different. Netflix, when it came, it was just so different from anything that was out there in the market, or Spotify. Those are different services, products that when they came out, they have a very unique value proposition, something that it was so different that pretty much nobody out there was having, or not to the same level as they did. These are very important features because they're going to differentiate you from the competition. But are they the most important ones? Well, you have to make sure that there's also other features that you pay attention to. Let's get into them. There's other features that potentially they are not going to make a huge difference because they don't. Other competitors are going to have it. And you can think about these features as features that as much as you increase them, they're going to also, in a way, in a linear way, maybe not completely linear because, science, but they are going to increase the satisfaction of your customers. So you could think, for example, the amount of, I don't know, if you are going to purchase some online storage service like Dropbox or Google Drive or whatnot, the more it provides you as storage, well, the better it is for you because you got to store more photos, videos, whatnot, whatever you're storing in those services. That is going to be somehow linear. The more you need it and the more they offer, well, the more satisfied you are with the service because you're not kind of capping, you're not getting to the top and then suddenly you had to go and move to the next tier. So that increase of that feature is something that you will value as it grows in the company. Then there's going to be features that are not going to give you a ton of satisfaction no matter if the company actually gives you more. So probably one of the most common examples that you can hear is that cars, you will expect that a car has seats, like 4, 5, 6, 7 seats, depends on what you need, but that each seat also is going to have a seat belt. So having a seatbelt for a passenger is something that probably is very important. Having 20 seatbelts, it just doesn't matter because you're not going to use them. And maybe that's a little bit silly example, but think about the iPhone one or the battery life for smartphones nowadays. This baseline of 24 hours, 18 hours, whatever it is, the lifetime of the batteries is something that people have gotten so used to that they expect it to be this baseline. This is the minimum that I need. But in reality, even if they push it that, hey, you can use your smartphone or that smartphone that the company is building for, let's say, 48 hours or a whole week, that's probably not going to get many people super excited about it. It's going to get a few people excited about it, true, but that's probably not going to be meaningful for a big company to even bother to do that. And it probably is a very big investment for them to actually go and do it to really satisfy a very small amount of people, like this, 80-20% ratio. Another one that you can think about is having Bluetooth. A smartphone without Bluetooth is not going to be something that people are going to be happy about. Everybody pretty much expects that smartphone is going to have Bluetooth, 1 day, battery life, so on. So those are baseline features that people are going to expect you to have. And then there are going to be no impact features, or even features that really are going to be negative for your product. These are going to be features that if you introduce them, pretty much nobody's going to use them. Most of us have those ones in our product. It's good to identify them and even potentially remove them, because they're not bringing value to anybody, and probably they're costing us to maintain them. Okay, there might be this marginal number that is bringing, or they are bringing value to. Most of the companies, most of the product people are going to be very discouraged about taking them away, because it's always risky. There's always risk, but there's always a risk of keeping them. Technical depth, scalability of the product, complexity of the product. These are very important aspects that potentially are not taken into account when you do this, or when you have these features. Sometimes it's better to have a simple product that does what it does well, than have maybe a little bit bloated product that does a lot of things, and certain things that it does, many people don't use them. Something that you should pay attention to. And even worse, you might have negative features, things that people get really annoyed by them. This is something that potentially you should think if you should remove them. I don't want to go too much into this, how to call it, maybe a little bit political discussion about microservices and micropayments, not microservices, sorry, micropayments and microtransactions in gaming nowadays, because of course that's a way that they do business, and some companies are growing a lot with that. And well, you can say if it's morally right or not to ask for people to play a mobile game and spend potentially thousands of euros playing a mobile game. I don't know, it's just... anyways, let's not go there. But you could say that this is a feature that is affecting negative the company. And is this something that you should have? Okay, there will be other examples of features that you potentially have in your product and that they are not satisfying the users, that they are not bringing value to the users. More importantly, not just necessarily satisfying them, but maybe they are creating a reaction on the users, because this is something that they don't want to see there, that it's maybe disruptive for them, or maybe it's creating a very complex workflow for them. Those are features that you should consider whether you had to remove them or whether you have to adapt and maybe look into how they could be implemented in a way that, okay, the feature maybe as such is not completely wrong, but the actual implementation is, and maybe you had to look forward into how to improve it. So these are the different ways that you could look into different features that you have to prioritize for your product. If you are familiar with frameworks, you probably have noticed that in a way I have been describing them very similarly to how the Kano model describes this one. The Kano model is a very popular framework to actually prioritize your product and actually, or the features within your product. And actually, I think it's very valuable. It is very important that you are able to define the features in this way, because it gives you an understanding of, for example, like the performance. How many concurrent users are you going to have in your platform? It's probably, if you think that you're expecting to have 100,000 users daily in your product, it might be that you want to obviously go a little above, but you probably don't want to prepare to receive 20 million, because probably doesn't make a lot of sense. So you had to understand what is that performance that you need, and it goes all for the different levels of the features. So Kano model, a framework that you should look into, because it helps you structure how those features are going to fall and understand which ones are going to bring value And even those ones that sometimes people forget, because it's very easy to think about the ones that are going to be different. That's very important. But you also have to think about this one that are going to maintain the baseline needs and requirements from your users. And you have to understand which ones are like the ones that are going to be the baseline, because what is baseline for you might be that for your competitor is not. And the opposite is also true. And there's always room for improving and even maybe doing a huge leap that no competitor has done, because it is very comfortable to stay in these performance features that everybody's doing this, why we're going to be doing different. It's also risky because you can get it wrong. So you always have to analyze this and see where you can differentiate yourself, see where do you have those ones that bring value to your customers, but it's not like an exponential relation between both, and which ones are going to be your baseline metrics and which ones maybe you should stay away from. This is very important. Then you can look into something like Moscow framework, the must have, should have, could have, won't have framework, which actually will help you also prioritize in the features, and maybe you prioritize over time, because what is a must-have in the beginning or what is a could-have in the very beginning might be a must-have after half a year, something that you have to pay attention to. If you want to learn more about these frameworks, I'm going to leave a link here for you to go and check them out. How about you? How do you prioritize features? How do you make sure that you're paying attention to all the things that are going to be needed to be implemented in your product, and that you're making sure that your customers are going to be happy using your product? Please comment below and let us know. If you think that I missed something, of course, do the same. I'll be paying attention to the comments and I'll be answering to them. I will see you in the next one. And remember, stay safe.